How inflation affects your everyday life and what to do about it. Most people know that inflation means prices go up, but very few people understand how it's quietly eating away at their budget every single month, even when their salary stays the same. Today, I want to break that down in a way that actually makes sense. What inflation is, how it shows up in your everyday life, how to adjust your budget when it does, and most importantly, what you can actually do to protect yourself from it. Welcome to Pulse Point. I'm a chartered accountant working in banking, and inflation is something I deal with professionally every day. But like budgeting, understanding it in theory and feeling its impact on your own pocket are two very different things. So let's make this practical. What inflation actually is. Let's start with the basics because most explanations make this more complicated than it needs to be. Inflation is simply when the general price of goods and services rises over time. That's it. The same 100 Rand that bought you a full basket of groceries 5 years ago might only buy you half that basket today. Your money hasn't changed, but what it can buy has shrunk. In South Africa, we measure inflation using something called the Consumer Price Index, or CPI. It tracks the price of a basket of everyday items food, transport, housing, electricity and measures how much that basket costs over time. When the CPI goes up, inflation is rising. When it goes up too fast, the Reserve Bank steps in and raises interest rates to try to slow things down. But here's the thing most people miss. The official inflation rate is an average. It doesn't reflect your specific situation. If you spend most of your money on food and transport, which most South Africans do, your personal inflation rate is probably higher than the headline number you see in the news. How inflation shows up in your everyday life. Let's make this real. Here are the areas where inflation hits hardest for the average South African household. Groceries. Food inflation in South Africa has been running well above the headline rate for years. Bread, cooking oil, chicken, vegetables, the basics have become significantly more expensive. If you're not tracking your grocery spend month to month, you might not notice it happening, but it is. Fuel and transport. The petrol price in South Africa is one of the most visible signs of inflation. When it goes up, everything else follows. Because almost everything we buy has been transported somewhere. Higher fuel costs mean higher delivery costs, which means higher prices on the shelf. Electricity, Eskom tariff increases have consistently outpaced general inflation for years. Your electricity bill this year is meaningfully higher than it was 2 or 3 years ago, even if you're using exactly the same amount of power. Rent. Landlords typically increase rent annually, often pegged to inflation or above it. If your rent has gone up while your salary hasn't kept pace, you're effectively earning less in real terms. Interest rates. When the Reserve Bank raises interest rates to fight inflation, the cost of debt goes up. Your home loan repayment, your car finance, your credit card, all of it becomes more expensive. This is one of the more painful knock-on effects of inflation that people often don't connect directly. The bottom line is this. If your income isn't growing at least as fast as inflation, you are getting poorer in real terms. Even if your bank balance looks the same, your purchasing power is shrinking. How to adjust your budget when prices keep rising. So what do you actually do about it? This is where we get practical. Step 1. Run an inflation audit on your budget. Go back through your last 3 months of spending and compare it to the same period a year ago. Category by category. Groceries, fuel, electricity, rent. How much more are you spending on the same things? That difference is your personal inflation impact. It's a number worth knowing. Step 2. Renegotiate your fixed costs. Most people accept their fixed expenses as exactly that, fixed. But many of them aren't. Your insurance premium? Have you shopped around lately? Your gym membership, your subscriptions, your phone contract? When did you last check if you're on the best deal? In an inflationary environment, reviewing these annually isn't optional, it's necessary. Step 3. Protect your variable spending with tighter caps. When prices rise, the same budget allocation buys you less. Your 3,000 Rand grocery budget from last year might only cover 2,500 Rand worth of food today. You have two choices: increase the allocation or find ways to spend smarter within it. Buying in bulk on non-perishables, shopping at multiple stores, cutting food waste. These aren't dramatic lifestyle changes, they're practical responses to a real problem. Step 4. prioritize debt repayment. In a rising interest rate environment, variable rate debt becomes increasingly expensive over time. If you have credit card debt or a personal loan with a variable rate, paying it down faster than the minimum is one of the best returns you can get in an inflationary period. The interest you avoid paying is guaranteed. No investment can promise you that. Step 5. Revisit your budget every quarter. A budget you set 12 months ago is based on prices from 12 months ago. In a high inflation environment, that budget is out of date. Build a habit of reviewing your major expense categories every 3 months and adjusting your allocations to reflect current reality. How to beat inflation and protect your money. Long term. Adjusting your budget helps you survive inflation, but if you want to actually get ahead of it, you need to think about what your money is doing when it's not being spent. Keep as little as possible in a standard savings account. A typical savings account in South Africa pays interest well below the inflation rate. That means money sitting in a savings account is losing purchasing power every day. It feels safe, but in real terms, it's shrinking. Use a money market account or fixed deposit. These typically offer better rates than standard savings accounts and are low risk. Not perfect, but better than letting your money sit idle. Invest in assets that historically outpace inflation. Over the long term, equities, shares in companies, have consistently outperformed inflation. Unit trusts and ETFs give you access to a diversified basket of shares without needing to pick individual stocks. This isn't a short-term play. It's for money you won't need for 5 years or more. But if you're not investing at all, inflation is winning. Increase your income. This sounds obvious, but it's worth saying directly. The most powerful protection against inflation is an income that grows faster than it. That might mean negotiating a salary increase, developing a skill that commands higher pay, or building a side income. None of these happen overnight, but all of them are more effective than simply cutting expenses indefinitely. Invest in yourself. Skills, qualifications, and knowledge appreciate over time. In an inflationary world, your ability to earn is one of the few assets that can genuinely keep pace with rising prices, and often exceed them. In closing, inflation isn't something that happens to other people. It's happening to your grocery bill, your electricity account, your fuel tank, and your bond repayment right now. The people who navigate it best aren't the ones who earn the most. They're the ones who pay attention. They know their numbers, they adjust when things change, and they make sure their money is working rather than sitting still. That's what this channel is about, not perfection, just awareness and practical steps you can actually take. If this was useful, subscribe to Pulse Point. I put out a new video every week breaking down personal finance in a way that actually makes sense, and drop a comment below. I'd love to know how inflation has hit your budget hardest. I'll see you in the next one.